A few weeks ago, we experienced maybe the most bullish week ever in crypto. With the entire political landscape of crypto shifting, the ETH ETF getting approved, and all three presidential candidates coming out as pro-crypto, throwing crypto into the spotlight as a major election issue. And right after, we saw the price of Ethereum, Bitcoin, and just about everything else stay flat, as if literally nothing had happened. And it feels like everywhere you look, there's quite a bit of fear and worry and bearishness as people are wondering if maybe we've already topped this cycle and what's gonna happen next. In this video, I'm gonna outline why I believe that crypto is primed to absolutely skyrocket in 2025 and why now is the time to be building up your positions in the market. I personally believe that this bull run is still extremely early. We have a lot higher to go from here, and I'm gonna outline my entire argument as to why I believe that in this video. Keep in mind, I might be on YouTube like putting out this content, but my full-time job isn't being a content creator. I'm an investor and I make the vast majority of my money actually investing in the liquid crypto markets. And I don't do any sponsored or paid deals or anything like that. Instead, I actually spend the vast majority of my time researching. I pay quite a bit of money for the best research in the space, all the newsletters, all of that kind of stuff. I firsthand interview a ton of different crypto projects, developers, investors on my podcast, the Never Die podcast. And crypto investing is essentially all I do full time. And you can go back on my YouTube and my Twitter and see that I held on to most of my money from last cycle. I essentially got in about a week from the exact bottom of this cycle. And while I'm definitely far from perfect, and I definitely make mistakes and different things like that, I've had quite a few predictions that have been really on point in my 2023 predictions video and my 2024 predictions video. And I've already made more money this cycle than I did the entire last cycle. My whole point here is not to highlight that I'm a genius or anything like that, but just to highlight that I do have some credibility. I do have like a past history of being like accurate on some things. And I'm not just some like delusional optimist spouting nonsense on YouTube. Okay, so why am I so bullish and absolutely convinced that we're going way higher from here? So there's actually multiple elements as to why I'm so bullish. It's not just one thing. Like with anything, especially like crypto, economics, etc., there's a lot of different factors that I believe are influencing and going to push crypto a lot higher from here. But first off, I want to talk about the most recent development, and that's the approval of the Ethereum ETF. If you haven't been paying attention to crypto, you probably don't even know that the Ethereum ETF, just for the first time ever, got approval to get traded in the US markets. And I can't underemphasize how massive of a deal this actually is. If you watch my channel, you know in July of last year, I outlined the Bitcoin ETF, why I thought it was going to get approved this time, and why I thought it would have a massive impact on the crypto markets. Bitcoin was trading at the time around $28,000. Fast forward, we obviously know that the Bitcoin ETF did get approved, and it had a huge impact on the market. Like it took Bitcoin from $28,000 all the way up to a new all-time high. Not only that, but the Bitcoin ETF went on to be the most successful ETF launch literally in history. And the entire crypto market as a whole ended up skyrocketing and going higher from where it was. And I believe that the Ethereum ETF will in many ways have more meaningful of an impact on the crypto market as a whole than the Bitcoin ETF did. Even though that I believe the inflows into the Ethereum ETF is actually gonna be a lot smaller than what we've seen with the Bitcoin ETF. And here's why I believe that. First off, Ethereum is extremely illiquid. And that's because most Ethereum, most ETH is used in DeFi. It's like held in treasuries. People hold it in their wallet to pay gas fees. It's used for different like financial primitives where people will like back stable coins with ETH, or they'll use it to like build some other product. And then there's just a ridiculous amount of ETH that's staked to earn the yield that comes from staking ETH, or staked in Eigenlayer to earn restaking yield. In fact, today, the amount of ETH on like centralized exchanges, according to CryptoQuant, is around 13 million ETH, or around 10.8% of the total Ethereum supply. That means just a small amount of demand can actually have outsized effects on the price of Ethereum. And maybe an easy way to think about it would be like, imagine if 90% of the supply of ETH was on exchanges. Think of that as like a big pool, like a really massive pool. And if you add water into that pool with a cup or like a bucket, it's gonna be hard to raise that pool level. Or if you take water out of that pool with a bucket, it's gonna be hard to lower that pool level because it's just so spread out. Now imagine like a low float supply, or like just a small amount, 10% of the supply of ETH available on exchanges. So only a tiny amount that's able to be bought to match the demand. And think of that like taking all that water and condensing it into like a small round tube. When there's only a low float or a low amount of supply, if you took like a bucket of water and dumped it into that tube, it's gonna like really push up the water level of that tube. In the same way, with just a little bit of demand for Ethereum with so little supply available to be bought, it's going to really have an outsized effect on the price. Meaning even just a decent amount of inflows into the Ethereum ETF could send the price of Ethereum skyrocketing. Keep in mind also that Ethereum is just a lot smaller than Bitcoin. So naturally, by it being smaller, it already takes far less demand to shoot the price up. So couple that all together, you have a really small supply available to be bought of Ethereum, of an asset that's already way smaller than Bitcoin, and it only takes a fraction of the inflows that Bitcoin's seeing to really push up the price of Ethereum. And I mentioned some of the reasons earlier why like ETH is so scarce. Like again, it's locked up, it's used for a lot of different things. But another reason there's so little Ethereum available on exchanges is because Ethereum's deflationary. Bitcoin has miners who earn Bitcoin rewards, and then they sell that Bitcoin on the open market to pay for like electricity costs and different things like that. Ethereum doesn't have that same structural sell pressure. Not only does it not have that, but all the ETH that gets used to buy things. So like when you go do a swap on Ethereum and you have to pay a gas fee, all that gas fee ETH gets burned, reducing the overall supply of ETH, resulting in, as I said, Ethereum being deflationary. Now, when Ethereum goes up in price a lot, that creates something called a wealth effect. Basically, it means because all of crypto and all these projects have exposure to ETH, when it goes up a lot, they feel a lot richer. They feel like they have a lot more wealth. And this typically results in a trickle-down effect where everything touching ETH experiences this crazy price boom, shooting prices up. And we see this massive rotation in altcoins as they skyrocket in price. So to make it really simple, Ethereum has all these different factors that I think will really easily, with very little inflows, push up the price of Ethereum. That's really good for all these tokens, all these altcoins, because you have this wealth effect that pushes up the price of everything. And thirdly, beyond that, I think that because all these money managers, all these wealth advisors, etc., are going to have to familiarize themselves with Ethereum, they're gonna learn about it. They're gonna learn about all the different apps, and then they're gonna have to educate their clients who they're trying to get to buy these financial products from them on these same things. And that is maybe even more bullish for crypto as a whole and as a space, because it finally gets people educated on maybe the more legitimate side of the crypto space. Ethereum's a good example. It does over $1 billion in revenue annually, and depending on the burn, like sometimes it goes as high as 6 billion or 7 billion in revenue annually. And there's a lot of other things like Maker that does 300 million annually, etc., that have these like familiar fundamentals for traditional investors to be like, oh cool, that's revenue, that's yield, etc. Things that they understand already that maybe will get them more excited than what crypto is typically associated with. And finally, when it comes to the Ethereum ETF, the last piece of like kind of the bullish puzzle is that Ethereum is finally recognized as a commodity, not a security, which I think is really bullish for the space as a whole. Remember, up until this point, the SEC's stance was essentially that like Bitcoin's a commodity and everything else is a security, and eventually we're going to go after everything. This kind of breaks that whole viewpoint and that stance and really opens the door for a lot more crypto tokens to be labeled commodities and not securities. Okay, so that's piece one of why I'm really excited and really bullish. I actually see how that plays out in the crypto space, and I think that alone will send the crypto space much, much higher than it is today. I've seen this play out before. I've seen this script happen before in past cycles, and it always works out the same way, which is it sends everything a lot higher from here. Now, the same week we saw the ETF approval, we saw another really unprecedented, really insane thing happen. And I'm gonna get to that in 1 second, but really quick. I've opened back up the Obsidian Council today to 100 new members. The Obsidian Council is my private research community where I share monthly research, my entire portfolio updated monthly with the exact allocation I bought, my personal risk level, and more, buy and sell alerts when I jump into projects, and a ton more things. We've had projects like Pendle, which is up over 1,500%, projects like Index, which is up over 200%, projects like Solana, which is up over 779%, Rune, which is up over 220%, Akash, which is up over 1,700%, Across, which is up 141%, and a ton more. We also have the Airdrop guide, which some members have made $1,000, some $5,000, some $10,000, some have made up to $26,000 last year farming airdrops, covering their membership for literally decades. I personally made well over $100,000 between this year and last year, and I share everything I'm personally doing with airdrops with the community via the monthly Airdrop guide. Plus, recently I made the Ghost Tiger strategy available to all Obsidian Council members. This is my bot strategy I've been testing for 22 months. That's averaged around 6% monthly returns. It really is just an amazing community. If you have funds to invest, obviously, if you don't have like money to invest, then please don't join. It's just not going to make any sense for you if you don't actually have any money to invest. If you want to join, there's a link in the description of this video. Again, we'll only be opening back up to the first 100 members. After that, I'm closing it back up. Okay, so the same week we saw the Ethereum ETF approval, we saw crypto become a center stage election issue, with Trump sort of coming out of nowhere and announcing that he's a pro-crypto candidate, and then all other presidential candidates making comments on their stance toward crypto. This is actually a pretty big deal because never before has crypto ever been an election issue. Never has it been noteworthy enough to be an election issue. However, now a few major shifts have happened that have kind of propelled it into that spotlight. First off, a few polls came out showing that 1 in 5 voters own crypto, and that crypto holders are far more likely to be single issue voters when it came specifically to crypto. In a really tight election that's typically won by like maybe a few thousand votes in a state or 10,000 votes in a state, when you have millions of crypto holders who are willing to make crypto a single issue stance, like where if you're pro crypto, I'll vote for you. If you're anti crypto, I'm going to vote against you. In an election like that, this has huge implications and could mean crypto has the potential to swing the election in favor of whoever is the most pro crypto. And again, this isn't me saying this, like quite a few different polls from different agencies came out showing these stats. Now, not to get political, but the Democrats have traditionally been very anti-crypto thanks mostly to Elizabeth Warren. And obviously with all of this information coming out, it's looking very unfavorably for them when it comes to this upcoming election, which is why we saw some pretty insane things happen during that week of the ETF approval. First off, there was this obscure SEC accounting rule. It's a really stupid rule, makes absolutely zero sense. The banks hate it, crypto hates it. Nobody understands why it got passed. The only reason people feel like it got passed is to be like, stick it to crypto and try to hurt crypto, but it basically makes it so banks can't custody crypto on their balance sheets. So like fully regulated, super safe institutions, not allowed to hold crypto because, you know, the SEC doesn't want them doing that. It is unanimously agreed this is a really stupid rule. And that's emphasized by the fact that it made it all the way to the Senate to have a vote on this rule to overturn it because so many people felt like this was just a ridiculously stupid rule that was anti-crypto for no reason. Now, Biden came out and said that even if they voted to repeal it, he was going to veto it. He said, I'm anti-crypto. Even if you vote to repeal this, I'm going to veto it. Despite that, and despite it being an election year where typically parties are really unified, a huge swath of the Democrats broke away from the Biden administration and went against what he had said and voted in favor of overturning SAB 121, which is the name of this rule. After that, during the same week, there was another vote on a really pro-crypto bill written by some pro-crypto members of Congress that's meant to give a lot of clarity to the crypto space and clearly distinguish where the SEC has authority and where the CTFC has authority. Now, it was expected that maybe 1 or 2 Democrats would flip and vote in favor of this bill, and maybe if we were lucky, we'd pass it by just like a slim margin. What ended up happening instead is over 70 different Democrats flipped, went against party lines, and voted in favor of this bill, which I can't underemphasize how big of a deal this is. Crypto over these last 2 years has been very partisan. Republicans have kind of latched onto it to support it. Democrats have been very much against it. And it's meant we couldn't have any progress. And it's been overall very hostile towards the crypto space, making a really hard environment to grow and to prosper and to get things done. Now we have a majority of the House and the Senate that are seemingly flipping, turning a new leaf, and are now very pro-crypto. This means elected officials are finally waking up to the fact that like the amount of people that are anti-crypto in the US is actually really, really small. Of those anti-crypto people, like nobody's going to make it a voting like election issue. On the other side, there's millions of people who are pro-crypto who own it in some capacity, and they're willing to vote like for somebody who's going to pump their bags and very much against anyone who's going to try to crush their bags, because that's like in some cases their entire net worth. In fact, over the past like 2 years, I've seen like I don't know how many like lifelong Democrats in the crypto space flip to Republican due to the underhanded tactics and attacks that we've seen on the crypto space from Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats. So the bullish part of this is finally we have like a majority of the government who's like seemingly supportive of crypto and willing to help us move the industry forward, finally unlocking a lot of this potential value in the crypto space that we've been crippled. We've been fighting with like 2 hands behind our back because at every turn we've had the government attacking us, creating this law, debanking us, and all this crazy stuff happening that finally, it's seeming like we're going to be able to clear that out and move forward in a meaningful way. Now, it's worth noting that although many of the Democrats have seemingly come out again as pro-crypto, the Biden administration kind of made it seem like they were going to be pro-crypto and then like stabbed us in the back when it came to SAB 121, because he did end up vetoing it, which was definitely seen as like a betrayal and sort of like an attack by the Biden administration by a lot of people in crypto. The US government flipping pro-crypto and giving us finally some breathing room to maneuver is so insanely bullish. It hurts like that. I can't underemphasize like how insanely bullish this is if it continues to play out the way it's looking like that it is going to end up playing out. This leads me to my third point. Sentiment is finally shifting positive again towards crypto in popular culture. Even just like a few months ago, if I would like mention to like a stranger that I was involved in the crypto space, they would essentially treat me like I was some sort of drug dealer or something. Like they would immediately clam up, they would get really suspicious and like act really weird towards me, like I was some sort of like villain to them. Contrast that to 2021. If I talked about crypto, people were like fascinated. They like couldn't stop talking or asking me questions about the space because they thought it was just the coolest space to be involved in. Well, obviously, in order to experience like an epic bull run, we need the wider consensus among popular culture to be that like crypto's cool again, people want to invest, and they see it as an interesting opportunity. And we're finally starting to see sort of the ice crack in a shift in sentiment. Noticeably, very recently, we've seen a few celebrities jump back into the crypto space. Some are launching their own tokens, some are just talking about crypto. And in my opinion, they seem like they're like the forerunners or like the early adopters before it kind of cracks into the wider celebrity influencer space. And where influencers and celebrities go, obviously popular culture tends to follow. I was also recently listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the All In podcast. They have traditionally been very bearish on crypto or very antagonistic against crypto. And during this last week, when I was listening to the podcast, they flipped positive toward crypto for the first time since 2021, essentially. And keep in mind, this is one of the most listened to podcasts on the planet. All four of these guys are like heavily connected to Silicon Valley, the tech industry, and some of the most influential and wealthy people all over the world. And during that episode, they talked about Bitcoin, the halving. Chamath said he had his team do price targets, and it came out to like $200,000 to $500,000 per Bitcoin. And they even talked about how they believe that a lot of governments are going to start onboarding potentially Bitcoin to their balance sheet alongside their fiat currency, which really for me was just a wild 180 in terms of sentiment. And my expectation is the majority of major thought leaders soon we'll be talking about crypto and talking about its benefits again, like we saw back in late 2020 and 2021. And because of that, we're going to see a complete sentiment shift among most normal people in the next 6 to 12 months. Okay, so to recap, the ETH ETF has been approved and we can expect it to pump the price of Ethereum due to the scarce amount of Ethereum available on exchanges to buy and the overall smaller size of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Ethereum pumping creates this massive wealth effect across Ethereum's L2s, even chains like Solana, Avalanche, etc. Everywhere that Ethereum is connected and touches, it creates a wealth effect, causing value to pour into a lot of these altcoins, shooting up the prices. The ETH ETF also creates a huge opportunity for education about the space, where we're going to see it with a lot of these financial firms, advisors, and then they're going to in turn educate a lot of their customers. Crypto has, for the first time ever, become an important election issue, with all major candidates taking some form of a stance. Crypto voters are numerous. There are millions of crypto holders and voters within the US, and they're far more likely to be single issue voters when it comes to crypto. Although Biden is still hostile towards crypto, a huge swath of the Democrats have broken party lines and now seem to be in support of crypto. All this means crypto is winning, and we're likely to see some pro-crypto bills and laws passed that will give crypto some breathing room to really grow. Public sentiment is finally shifting, with some early celebrities jumping into the space and some major thought leaders completely doing a 180 and flipping their stance on crypto. Finally, we still have rate cuts ahead. More Bitcoin inflows coming online through various TradFi institutions. The fact that post-halving it typically takes 3 to 6 months for the markets to start to climb upward. And again, the fact that if we stick to the same script that the 4-year cycle typically follows, then we should see the market kick into high gear late 2024 and into 2025. Keep in mind, we're basically sitting at previous all-time highs, but we have none of the unhealthy market state that we used to have when we were here during last cycle. We have none of the leverage, none of the frothiness. The markets feel and look extremely healthy at this point and look like they're primed for growth. And in my opinion, we go much higher higher from here. We're going to see prices move up at some point in late 2024 into 2025 before ultimately crashing again in 2026 when things get frothy, people start taking on leverage, and the market again, once again gets really unhealthy. And as always, none of this is investment advice. None of this is me telling you to buy or not buy. You should always do your own research if you actually want to succeed investing. Cryptos obviously can be really risky. If this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.